There is a very big hole in the motorsports world today, and inside of that hole sits the perfect 50/50 unicorn adventure bike. That 600 to 800 cc, 70 to 90 horsepower, sub 400 pound motorcycle that costs between 11 and 13,000 United States dollars. This hole, my friends, is so big with demand. It's as if every single motorcycle rider in the universe is on standby with millions upon millions of dollars in cash, desperately waiting to throw it at any manufacturer who so dare build that unicorn motorcycle. But year after year and Eicma after Eicma, we continue to wonder when and if this bike is ever going to be built. Now, we thought that maybe this year the Honda Transalp 750 would be that bike. It was not. We thought that maybe the Suzuki V-Strom 800 could be that bike, and it was not. And here we are, left to wonder if we will ever see this motorcycle. Now, obviously, the manufacturers realize that the demand is there. But how come they're not building this bike? Is it because they don't want us to have it? Or is it because they can't build this bike according to the ever so discriminatory motorcycling public? Or is it deeper than that? So in today's video, Goons and Gals, I will discuss with you two theories I have. One, on why this bike has not been made yet, and number two, on why it probably never will be made. So let us divulge. Theory number one is scientific. Perhaps the reason that the perfect 50/50 unicorn bike doesn't exist is because it can't exist from a technological standpoint. Now, I know this sounds crazy considering we have gone to the moon, we're currently trying to colonize Mars, and we built a personal computer that fits in the palm of your hand and takes pictures and makes phone calls. But maybe when it comes to motorcycle technology, even though we've made some extreme advances in that area, something like this simply can't be done, and it simply can't be done to meet the demands of the ever so discriminatory motorcycling public. So let's look at it this way. Is there any motorcycle out there right now that even comes close to those specs as the perfect unicorn motorcycle? The 600 to 800 cc, 70 to 90 horsepower, sub 400 motorcycle, $11,000 to $13,000. Yes, the KTM 690 Enduro R, which is also the Husqvarna 701 and the Gas 700. That is a 74 horsepower, 600 cc motorcycle that weighs 370 or so pounds, and you can buy one of those for roughly $12,000 to $13,000. So in essence, according to a spec sheet, the perfect unicorn bike would exist. But if that's the case, then how come every adventure rider in the world is not clamoring to buy a KTM 690 and make it an adventure motorcycle? Now, I know we've seen our fair share of YouTube videos where people have done that, but it's not the norm. And the biggest reason that riders don't do that is because of the KTM 690 engine. Because it's a single-cylinder engine, one piston. Single-cylinder engines are notorious for vibrations and excessive maintenance schedules. And that doesn't gel well with the concept of an adventure bike. Nobody wants a big, buzzy touring bike that needs its oil changed 5 times for every camping trip that you go on. And this is why most adventure bikes have multiple cylinders. Even though we've seen massive technology in single-cylinder engines over the last decade, they will never be as smooth running or require less routine maintenance than a multi-cylinder engine. That is unless that single-cylinder engine has been detuned, and that would defeat the purpose. Now you may ask, well, why doesn't KTM build a multi-cylinder engine and then put it inside of this chassis? That reason is because of weight. A single-cylinder engine has less components and it's much smaller in size than a multi-cylinder engine. So if KTM were to put a multi-cylinder inside of the 690 chassis, then it would end up weighing more than 430 pounds. If Yamaha was to remove their twin cylinder from the Tenere 700 and put a single in it, it would become much lighter and probably weigh around 370 pounds. but it would be so buzzy it would be almost impossible to ride, like you were sitting on an uneven dryer. But the harder thing to design and build wouldn't be the engine, it would be the chassis. How and where a chassis chooses to flex and how it disperses its energy is completely different for an on-road application than it is for an off-road application. Take for example something like longitudinal flex, which is how the chassis flexes from front to back. This is an important feature for off-road riding because it allows the rider to have more feedback from the suspension system in the ever-changing terrain conditions of off-road riding. It also allows the bike to be able to handle aggressive obstacles like whoop sections and massive jumps without snapping the frame in half and, much worse, shattering every bone in your body. Without that type of flex, it would be impossible to do that on a motorcycle. That type of flex isn't preferable when you're on the road. Imagine taking your 500-pound Africa Twin down the freeway at 80 miles an hour, wallowing like a dolphin with 100 pounds of luggage on the back. It just doesn't work. So there's a compromise there somewhere. So to create this motorcycle that has a lightweight multi-cylinder engine that's not buzzy on the freeway, that has long-term maintenance intervals, yet a chassis that can be solid enough and stiff enough to handle the demands of highway riding, yet flex at the right spots at the right time off-road, might just be something that we can't do. The second theory is perhaps the true 50-50 adventure bike doesn't exist because there's no such thing as a true 50-50 rider. So even if a manufacturer could build this bike, would anybody even buy it? Now I know this sounds crazy because it seems like this is exactly what the motorcycling community wants, but think about it. If there's no such thing as a true 50-50 rider, then what's the purpose of having a true 50-50 motorcycle? I think I can say with complete conviction for everyone listening, you yourself spend more time riding in one area than you do the other. And when you think about it, there are only 4 types of motorcyclists on the entire planet, and every single motorcycle that's built is fit to fill one of those 4 voids. You are either a dirt rider who doesn't touch the street, you are either a street rider who doesn't touch the dirt, you are either a dirt rider who uses the street as a transitioning period between trail to trail, or you are a street rider who occasionally likes to snoop down the fire road or the occasional dirt road. But nonetheless, you're spending most of your time in one specific area. Even if we own 2 motorcycles, we're still not spending 50% of our time on one bike versus 50% of the time on the other bike. Like myself, I'm fortunate enough to own a CRF 450 RL Dual Sport and a Triumph Tiger 800 adventure bike. Not only do I not ride the 450 RL 50% street, 50% dirt, and not only do I not ride the Tiger 50% street and 50% dirt, I don't even ride those bikes 50% 450 and 50% Triumph Tiger. I spend about 98% of my time riding the Dual Sport and a small 2% of the time riding the Triumph Tiger 800. So regardless of what kind of rider you are or how many bikes that you own, you can't ride both of them at the same time, and you're probably experiencing a similar situation. And another reason the true 50-50 concept can't work is because we spend so much time in one area versus another, making a compromise in that direction is a difficult thing to do. So for example, the more I try to make my CRF 450 street worthy, the more I give up off the road. The more I try to make my Triumph Tiger off-road worthy, the more I give up on the road. And us, the rider, has to choose which compromises we want to make. And just based on that premise alone, the true 50-50 adventure bike can't possibly exist. So I ask myself this question: if I made my CRF 450 RL more roadworthy, would that compel me to ride on the road more with that bike? And the answer is no. On the other hand, if I made my Triumph Tiger more dirt-worthy, would I choose to ride that instead of the 450 RL? And the answer is no. So in that theory, because the true 50-50 rider does not exist, this bike can never be built. And maybe that's why you don't see it. because it wouldn't sell. And since this 50-50 theory is intact, one could say that maybe the whole entire adventure motorcyclist market is just one big marketing scam. Because if your intent is just to ride the occasional fire road and the gravel road, as I had said in my last video, do you really need the 21-inch front tire? While that can help you for that application, if you're spending the other 90% of the time on the street, you are giving up way too much feel, stability, and handling performance on the street with that anorexic front tire. It just doesn't make sense. So you have to think about the compromises you're giving up 90% of the time to make that small 10% pleasurable. In closing, goons and gals, I guess our lesson for the day is life is a compromise. And the perfect, true 50-50 unicorn adventure bike can't exist because there's no such thing as the true 50-50 unicorn rider. No matter how much we want to think that we will spend more time than another, we're creatures of habit. We seem to just migrate towards a direction. And for everything that we give to one direction, we're taking from another. And that's just not with bikes. That's with life. Oh well, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.